I think I'm going to mute myself too.
I'm going to send my wife a quick message. I'm going to be right back.
McGovern has served on the chair of Rotary International's Polio Plus committees since October 2014. In this role, he is the volunteer leader of Rotary's largest humanitarian project, the global eradication of polio. Rotary is the spearheading partner of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative and has donated over $2 billion to ending a polio that has worked, over $2 billion to ending polio, and has worked with other partners to reduce the number of polio endemic countries from 125 in 1988 to 2 today. Mike also represents Rotary on the Polio Oversight Board. Mike joined Rotary in 1986 as a member of the Rotary Club of South Portland, Cape Elizabeth, Maine, USA. He served as a club president, district governor, district foundation chair, council on legislation delegate, Rotarian Action Group chair, Rotary Leadership Institute division chair, international training leader, institute convener, RI committee member and chair member, trustee and vice chair of the Rotary Foundation, and director and vice president of Rotary International. He began serving as the global chair of the Rotary Leadership Institute on July 1st, 2020. He served his entire career with the town of Cape Elizabeth, Maine, beginning as an intern in 1977 and serving as town manager from 1985 to 2016. During his career, he has also led several boards, including the Maine Municipal Association, the Maine Town and City Management Association, and EcoMaine, and served on committees of the International City and County Management Association. He currently serves on the board of Park Danforth, a nonprofit for profit retirement community, a profit retirement community, and is chair of the Diocesan Review Board of the Roman Catholic Diocese in Portland. We extend a warm Western welcome to Mike. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you very much, Marlene. Thank you, Governor Mary. First of all, wonderful to be with you. And every time I speak to a group that's predominantly from Canada, I long to visit once again. You know, it's just amazing. I live not really all that far from the Canadian border, you know, probably about 3 or 4 hours. And to think that you can't cross it is just a, you know, very strange circumstances. But anyway, you know, it's good. Apparently there's a debate on here in the United States at the same time as this. So, you know, it's very good to get away from that whole scene for a little bit. So anyway, what I want to do, if my slideshow would start, there we go. What I want to do is give you an update on the impact that we've had as Rotarians on the eradication of polio. And this is really an abbreviated version of what a couple of you may have seen, and it was mentioned as to what I did at something called a zone meeting the other day. You know, Governor Mary mentioned that we had a major milestone in the eradication of polio last month. This is a lab that I visited in a place called Matagorri in Borno in Nigeria. And it was in this very room where the last polio cases in Africa were discovered. It's in an area that it was where Boko Haram was founded, the terrorist group. And while we were there, we visited a camp for what they call internally displaced persons, and 60,000 people were living there. You know, it's there that polio workers are working, and thankfully, you know, the last cases were found in this particular lab. You know, people often say that, you know, Rotary isn't given much attention for its work eradicating polio. I really like this picture. You know, first of all, if you notice, it's all men except for one woman. But there were a lot of women there. They were just happened to the other side. And in this particular village, actually, Carol, there's two women. I see Carol Pandak there as well. But it's this was an event where Rotarians, using monies that you donated, had actually put in a new a well, to serve this village. And all of the men here were the men of the village. As I said, the women were off on the side. And you can see the little boy there in the middle, that's his father. And he was looking at me and he said, "Big white guy, you need to drink the water." And, you know, I got sort of a chuckle out of that. You know, you're sort of told when you visit countries like Nigeria and Pakistan and other places, you only drink bottled water. Well, when you're there to help dedicate or inaugurate this well that you provided, you really have to drink the water when they hand it to you. So anyway, you can see I'm drinking, but the man in the black, that is a gentleman by the name of Tunji Funcho. And Tunji is a volunteer leader of polio eradication for Rotary in Nigeria. And a week ago, Monday, Time magazine named him, time.com, named him one of the 100 most influential people in the world. And if you go online to the time.com website, or you look at the Rotary website, you can read about Tunji. But you know, that's a real recognition, not only for Tunji, but also for the Rotarians around the world, including you. You know, it's not easy to get those drops into mouths. And every place now in Pakistan and Afghanistan where we're delivering polio drops, you'll see someone in the background like the man you see in this picture. It's not easy. It's very difficult. And, you know, fortunately, the government is providing security. We've had a number of people we've lost over the years. There was a health worker last week in Pakistan who was killed. Fortunately, the initial story was she was a polio worker, but she wasn't. But regardless, you know, it's people who work in the front lines, you know, sometimes become the subject of attack. You know, Mary mentioned and Marlene that, you know, we've donated quite a bit. And I want to emphasize, you know, any amounts I show here are actually over 35 years since Rotary first began trying to raise money to eradicate polio. And, you know, we've had a simple goal. It's the global certification of polio eradication. You know, it's nothing more than that, nothing less than that. And, you know, the WHO has 7 regions in the world, and that's now happened in 6 of them. The remaining region is something called EMRO, the Eastern Mediterranean region. And obviously that includes the 2 endemic countries of Pakistan and Afghanistan. So, you know, from our own resources, we have given over $1 billion. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has not had a match the whole time, but they've had off and on matches for about 13 years now, mostly on. And, you know, they've given to Rotary $1 billion. But, you know, Rotary also, out of all the monies that, you know, immunizes all the kids, we're also responsible for bringing other people to work with us. You know, people often say Rotary doesn't have enough partners. Well, you know, one of the partners we brought on was the Gates Foundation, first led by Bill Gates Sr., who sadly passed away about a month ago. And Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has now spent over $4 billion eradicating polio. We also, you know, asked different governments, and you'll see on this page here that one of the governments, thanks to, you know, a lot of good work by a lot of Canadian Rotarians, has given $630 million over the years. And, you know, we work very closely with Global Canada, even today. I'm on a lot of phone calls with them. They you know, have a very strong interest and support of the program. So anyway, I just want to emphasize, those are big dollars, but it's the 35,000 clubs all of those little dollars, those things with loonies on them. That's what comes in. And my own club has cans on the tables when we meet in person, and we put coins into the cans. That's what it takes. It's all of these individual efforts that make a difference. So what's our impact? And this photo, this is a young woman, young girl. Her name is Rushdie, and I met her in Calcutta a couple of years ago, and they had got some gifts for me to give to her. I have to admit I didn't bring them. But she was the last little girl in India who came down with the wild polio virus. She's doing well. She was about 7 or 8 years old when this picture was taken, and she's doing great now. So anyway, but the CDC in the U.S. has estimated there's now 19 million people walking on Earth who would otherwise be paralyzed if Rotary hadn't started this. We're avoiding, now 650,000 cases a year. Some of you may remember we were having 350,000 cases a year when we began this, but the estimate's now 650 because there's a lot more children in the world than there were when we started. Since '88, when we really got going on this, 3 billion kids, 3 billion, have received the oral polio vaccine. Last year, we were active providing polio drops, the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, in 40 countries, 430 million kids immunized. And the doses, it's just, people, you just can't believe it's over 1 billion doses were given last year alone of oral polio vaccine. And so we've gone 4 years without a case in any country now other than Pakistan and Afghanistan. The last case other than the Nigeria ones 4 years ago were in Somalia, and that was 6 years ago. So that's all good news. We've also helped with COVID-19, we've helped with Ebola, we've helped with other things as well. But we need to get the job done. And everyone says, well, Michael, the cases have been up a little bit the last few years. What's gone wrong? What's the problem? How come it isn't done? So I want to, briefly, first, we're going to eradicate polio. We will do it. If we can do it in all these other countries, there's no reason that we can't do it in the final two. So what do we need to do there? We need to, first of all, we need to continue to advocate to governments of the world to give money. As the Canadian government, the United Kingdom, Japan, all of these. But we also especially need to advocate to the leaders in Pakistan and the leaders in Afghanistan. They need to be behind the program. So it's crucially important. Within Rotary, one of the things, we're talking about a cycling events here tonight. It's, the annual goal is 50 million. That is, then matched 2 to 1 by the Gates Foundation. Just this morning, we had a meeting of the Polio Grants Committee of Rotary, and we were, looking at investing in vaccines, investing in surveillance, investing in hundreds of thousands of polio vaccinators, frontline workers who will actually deliver the polio vaccine. And, that's what it takes to get all this done. So, contributions make all the difference in the world. But the next bullet, to get this done, it's all about convincing parents and leaders to have their kids receive the oral polio vaccine. We see a lot of news stories now with COVID, with, that, there's a lot of vaccine hesitancy out there. That's what we've been fighting the last few years in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Social media, people that, want to see the program fail, not because they don't love their kids, but because it's a way of taking a shot at the government. And, we also have the issue in Afghanistan of the Taliban stopped house-to-house vaccinations. And we've got to convince the Taliban that delivering the oral polio vaccine is the right thing to do. Last week, the Army general in Pakistan, General Basra, went out and immunized kids when they began a special national immunization days, 5 days now going on, about to wrap up. And he said he believes they can have the last polio case in Pakistan in 2021, next year. You know, we're hesitant to say dates, but you know what? It's all about getting them to own the program, to own the deadlines, and to, you know, as the president of Rotary, the chairman of the foundation, and I, and Aziz, who's our polio chair in Pakistan, met with him in the first week of February in his office in Islamabad. And basically, you know, his message was, these are our children. We're going to do this for our children. This is what we need to do. We also need to stop something called vaccine-derived cases. And those are caused by low rates of polio immunization. You know, all this month, we're focusing on different activities, all this month, meaning going into October, including World Polio Day, which is October 24th. You know, what I haven't done this evening in the limited time is to talk about the number of cases. You know, we've had 5 straight years under 200 cases. At one point, we were down to 22 cases. Last year, we had 176. This year, we're at about 125. You know, it's more than we'd like. But, you know, with COVID, we had to suspend immunizations for a while. You know, now we've resumed those. We're providing the personal protective equipment, the masks, the shields, other clothing. We're trying to do all these things. We're looking for better integration with other vaccines so that, you know, everyone's convinced of the need to get their kids immunized. So, you know, what I wanted to do is to give you optimism, give you really the positive outlook. Is this sign in the picture here? This was taken in a park in I think it was Islamabad. We are very close to eradicating polio from Pakistan. Together, we can make the difference. That's what this is all about. It's why what you're doing in your district is so important. And if you could put up the other, if I could stop sharing, and if you could put up the other slide, Charlene. You know, one of the, you know, there's a couple different activities, and you know, if you want to find out more, this is something they're doing it out of Rotary District 6400, and this is a session on October 6th, and this is New York time next week. But this is an event. John Germ, the chair of the End Polio Countdown to History campaign, some of you may have met John, and Aruna Kushik, who's the District 6400 governor, is involved as well. But it should be you know, a lot more detail than I'm giving tonight. But anyway, I just I left out my last slide to move to this one. But my last slide simply said thank you. Thank you, Rotarians. This all happens because of you. We are going to eradicate polio. So great to be with you, and thank you very much, Marlene, for introducing this, and District Governor Mary, and I look forward to hearing Scott. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike. I'm just taking a look quickly at the Q&A box, and we just have one question for you. What is the strategy to eliminate the vaccine-derived infection?
Good question, Mary. The #1 strategy is to roll out something called the novel oral polio vaccine. It's a new polio vaccine that's been developed over the last 10 years. It's gone through clinical trials very successfully. And what it does is when it's provided, and you know, right now with the vaccine we're providing, people secrete it, and unfortunately, some of the virus gets on the ground. It then mutates genetically, and people who didn't get the polio vaccine develop it. This novel vaccine is much more stable. There won't be that genetic mutation. And as a result, we expect that. We hope to get approval in the next month, what they call early use approval, EUL. You'll be hearing a lot more about that with the COVID viruses. And thanks to the Gates Foundation, they've already funded the beginnings of the manufacturing of the batches of it. And by the end of this calendar year, we expect to have 200 million doses available. So that's the main effort, is to roll out that novel oral polio vaccine, NOPV.
That's just fantastic news. And I don't see any other questions at the moment. So unless there's any more that people are furiously typing away that I haven't seen yet, I think that's the end of the Q&A at this stage. So Marlene, over to you.
Thanks, Mary and Mike. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Ultraman Scott McDermott, who has probably just come in from either swimming across the lake or a leisurely 100-kilometer cycle.
We run this morning.
Scott McDermott built the 15,000 square foot Best Body Fitness in 2002 after getting fit and finding his passion in life following a 13-year career in architecture that had left him overweight, sick, and stressed. Since getting back in shape, Scott has enjoyed an amazing journey, and after deciding to try out the Sylvan Lake Half Ironman Triathlon, he qualified for Ironman Canada. Within a few years, he was representing Canada at the World Championships in Holland and Australia, as well as racing all over Canada and the USA. In 2011, Scott decided to attempt a triathlon, 2.5 times longer than Ironman, called Ultraman. At the Canadian Ultraman Championships, he crossed the line in 6th place overall, only 20 minutes from second in a third-day race. He has since completed the Ultraman World Championships, placing 21st overall in 2013, has ridden a bike 400 kilometers in one day for cancer research, rode a mountain bike 700 kilometers to Montana along the Great Continental Divide, and completed every Spartan distance, including an Ultra Beast, which is a full marathon on a ski hill full of obstacles. In November 2015, Scott was racing at the Ultraman World Championships again and crashed his bike at close to 70 kilometers per hour, breaking many bones, including his skull, and it nearly cost him his life. He has made a remarkable full recovery and raced again 3 years later in November 2018, placing 25th in the world. Scott is very active in Rotary, serving on 3 missions to deliver wheelchairs, and has been president as well as Rotarian of the Year. Scott has been awarded Sylvan Lake Citizen of the Year twice and Business of the Year twice as well. He hosts the annual Terry Fox Run and has organized the BBF Sprint Triathlon, Zombie Run, Father's Day Run, Sylvan Lake Half Ironman, Amazing Race Sylvan Lake, and many more. Having shut down Best Body Fitness in March of 2020 forever, Scott is now focused on being a motivational speaker and working to get his documentary out on streaming to the world, as well as writing a book about the experience. Take it away, Scott.
Well, there's nothing left to say. Any questions? No, I'm just kidding. That was great. Thank you very much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screen share, and there's a little bit of a clunkiness to this, as always, as I start sharing the screen, and it picks with screen, and then I have to get my PowerPoint going, and it always makes everything fun as I switch display settings from that one to that one. All right, with any luck, you guys all now see a single tile that has a photo of me on a bicycle. Yes? Perfect. Okay, cool. Awesome. So I'm going to go through a few things tonight, a little bit about my background, just with some visuals, although Marlene did a great job of explaining a lot of things. I'm going to go through a value piece that I hope you'll benefit from, which definitely applies to polio. And then I've got a really neat observation of the world that I hope you find really valuable. So we'll take it away here. So who am I? Kind of a quick tour. And of course, this is always that panic moment where you push the down button and it didn't happen. So there we go. I spent 13 years in architecture, and I got overweight, and then I got in great shape and kind of became in the best shape of my life. So that was awesome. I opened my gym, a 15,000 square foot gym in Sylvan Lake, and I wrote a book called If Your Body Were a Car, You Wouldn't Treat It This Way. And as Marlene said, I got into triathlon. I did Ironman Canada. I got on Team Canada, went to the World Championships in Holland. as well as Australia and all around the place. And I'm pretty stubborn. That's kind of my claim to fame. And again, as was mentioned, I did really well at Ultraman in Canada, at the championships in Canada. So I went from wondering if I could finish a triathlon, like a small triathlon. I was like, well, I can not drown for periods of time, and I'm a spin class instructor, so I can ride an indoor bicycle. And I used to run when I was in high school. Maybe I could do this. And then that took me to Ironman, that took me to Team Canada, to Ultraman. So just to play a little game, and I don't know the easiest way I can do comments, because of course I'm in full screen mode. So Mary, if you can let me know if there's any comments. Does anybody know the distances for Ironman, what they are? Any guesses on that you could share? I'll let you off the hook just because I don't want to play too long with this, but it's a 3.8 kilometer swim, a 180 kilometer bike, and a marathon, 42.2 kilometers. And that's done in one day. And so that's pretty cool. And then you're like, okay, well, that's cool. What the heck is an Ultraman? So Ultraman starts with day one is a 10 kilometer open ocean swim. And that features wind, waves, sharks, jellyfish, all the fun that comes with an open ocean swim in Hawaii. Then it's a 145 kilometer bike ride. So 6 mile swim, 90 mile bike ride. And then on day two, we do a 276K bike ride. So close to 200 miles. And then on day three, we run a double marathon, 84.5K, 52 miles. So like it was said, I placed 6th overall in Ultraman World Championships in 2013. 6th in Canada, and then in 2013, I was 21st in the world. And then 2015, the race didn't quite go to plan. And what I'm going to do now, this is always entertaining, I'm going to show you a video. And if I do this right, I need to go to more, and I need to go share computer sound. Beautiful. Okay.
It feels so good to be back. I'm kind of teared up a little bit getting off the plane and smelling that warm Hawaiian air, seeing the palm trees. The last time I was here, things didn't go so well.
Yeah, Scotty just went down right in front of me, probably doing 60, 70K an hour. It just shocks you to the core.
I didn't think he was going to survive that crash.
And you're just like, what am I even looking at here?
When we got him here, I don't think the people that saw him realized how badly injured he was.
When he first came in, it was hard to think of him going back to triathlon, let alone going back to Ultraman. I think he was talking about going back to Ultraman before he could even reach above his shoulder.
Ultraman is based on the values of Aloha, Ohana, Kokua. It really is something more than those 3 words to us, though. It's the way we live our lives here in the islands. We help each other.
I have friends all over the world because of Ultraman.
Aloha and congratulations. We have reviewed your application and are pleased to accept you into the 2018 Ultraman World Championships.
He took all those steps, and of course, here we are. You know, we're back on the Big Island in 2018, and he's done it.
The prize was getting to Kona. The struggle has been the last 3 years after the accident. You know, the victory's probably just getting to the start line.
As soon as I heard Scott was coming back, I thought there's no way I could miss this.
Do this race without your crew. They're your lifeblood.
I'm really a little bit scared now. It looks like there's plenty of time, but it isn't.
No, there isn't.
There's a long uphill now. It's 16 miles to Waimea and mostly uphill.
And here we are now approaching the final half an hour of official competition time.
is the film preview. And I'll switch back to this here. And of course, I've got to swap display sets again. So I went from Mr. Fit Guy, Ultraman World Championships, ready to go, great crew, to smashing my bike. What happened was I was in 10th position overall, and I want to be top 5, and I was hammering the pedals hard, going down a mountainside a little bit in the rain, and apparently there was some algae on the bridge deck, and my wheel slipped out, and I cartwheeled down the highway at 70 an hour. So I shattered my shoulder, I broke my arm in half, and I busted my skull open, had a really serious brain injury. I also broke 5 ribs, and I busted up my knee. So that sucked, and I've always known racing had the potential for injury, but I never thought it could take my life. And that's me with my 3.5-year-old. That was quite a moment for me. Still is. I can't look at that picture without breaking up a little bit. But so what I want to share with you is, how did I get here? And of course, humor is good because it makes me smile after seeing that picture of my son. So I can't see your faces. I'm going to imagine everybody laughing at the dog. How did I get here? Okay, good. So what's the first thing you need to achieve any great goal? Like eradicating polio worldwide is a pretty big goal. So what are just some quick pieces on what you think would be what's needed to achieve a big goal, like a really honking big goal? And I see there's chat. That's what I wanted. I'm feeling tired just listening. Yeah, good. Any thoughts on that? I do like audience participation. I'm a big fan of it. So yeah, little pieces is good. What do you think you need to achieve a big goal, like a huge goal? Well, jump ahead. You need clarity. You have to be super clear. Yeah, we've got dedication, focus, series of small steps. Absolutely. You have to be clear. You have to be 100% clear on what that goal is, because clarity breeds mastery, and the goals that you set drive all of the actions you take. Because when you're really clear on the goal, like eradicating polio worldwide, or any goal that you have, you now know you have a decision-making process, because everything either pulls you closer to that goal or takes you away from that goal. And that's where the power lies in any big goal. You have to be clear. You have to be 100% clear. So I love this example. It's hard to beat a person who never gives up. It's Babe Ruth. Does anybody know what Babe Ruth was famous for? What did Babe Ruth do? Mike, you're American. You've got to know this. It's in your blood, right? Home runs, home run king. Absolutely, you guys nailed it. Babe Ruth was famous. He did 714 home runs. Do you know what he also held the record for a while?
Strikeouts.
40-year record. What's that?
Strikeouts.
Strikeouts. 1,330 times he struck out. And he was at bat 8,000, nearly 400 times. So to achieve his goal, he had to fail a lot. And that's not an isolated incident. Here's another example. I mean, look at the Hall of Fame on this guy, Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, arguably. But if you look at it, his field goal percentage, they call a basket in basketball a field goal, is 49%. That means he failed 51% of the time. He shot at the net 24,537 times and missed more than half the time. But he kept shooting at the net. And I love to share this for a lot of reasons, but we need to look at ourselves a little different. And I love this one. This is one of my goals in life. I'm afraid I see them reversed. I'm the tiger that sees the little kitten. But if that's so powerful. And in the world of triathlon, especially ultra distance triathlon, it doesn't make sense that I'm successful because I don't have the genetics. I'm 5'10.5". I'm 200 pounds. I've got a long back and short, stocky legs. When I race in the World Championships, I'm surrounded by guys that are 6 foot plus and weigh 40 to 60 pounds less than I do. They're gazelles, but I'm really stubborn. I'm really clear on my goal, and I never quit. And if we can all hang on to that when we set our goals, that's the magic. And it's not about what resources you have or your genetics or it doesn't matter. When you're 100% on that goal, you just achieve it because it's the only option. And so a lot of times we have to figure out though, like, how do you get clarity? Like, I know there's people that don't know what their goals are, and setting realistic goals. I see somebody wrote, I mean, yes, sometimes, but sometimes it's about being unrealistic too. But how do you get clarity? If you start with a list of all the things you want to do and have and be in life, that's a great place to start. And the biggest piece is you have to know why you want that goal. Like, you can't just say, I want the goal to have $1 million. Okay, great. If I have the goal to save my son's life and it's going to cost $1 million, okay, do you feel how that's different? I'm going to get that goal. But if I just want $1 million because I don't want to buy a car, like, who cares? I have a friend named Darren, and he was on my crew, and he got it in his head that he wanted to buy the Toronto Maple Leafs because he heard that the Teachers Association that owned them was putting this hockey team up for sale. And he had this idea, well, what if a bunch of Canadians all put together in a pool and formed a group, and we as a group own the Toronto Maple Leafs? And if he hadn't got outbid by a major Rogers communication company, he almost pulled it off. He actually got featured in Hockey Net in Canada. I know it's a pretty Canadian thing, like, but it's a big deal around here. So having that clarity makes you unstoppable, because what Darren achieved shouldn't have been possible. Now, the next corollary to this is, well, what if you have no idea what your goal is? Well, what if you don't know what you want to do? And then that's when you start with things you don't want. If you make a list of all the things that you don't want to be, have, and do, if you don't want to be unhealthy, if you don't want to be overweight, if you don't want the world to have polio, if you don't want children in a place that you know of to not have water, then the opposite is your goal. And you can find that one that's powerful. I hope that makes sense. I want to try to add a little value and fun here, as well as the next pieces I'm going to cover. But one of the goals I used to hear a lot more when I owned a gym was New Year's resolutions, right? New Year's resolutions is huge. Every year, the gym is full with people that they want to lose weight, right? I'm sure you can all agree that's a pretty common thing. So while we're halfway through the year and I'm only 30 pounds away from my New Year's resolution of losing 20 pounds. That's a joke, we can laugh. Okay, good. Marlene smiled, I appreciate that. I think Mary smiled a little too, which is great. The challenge is, if you have a goal and your thought is, well, I will be relentless. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to do something. That's in the future. It's not going to happen. Because if you're like, well, I will lose 20 pounds, but today I'm going to have a pizza and cheesecake, you're in trouble. But what happens if you change the tense? Think about this, and I want you to say it to yourself. I am relentless. Which one of those is more powerful? I will be relentless, or I am relentless? And I think that's the big ticket. We are going to end polio. Yeah, but there's all these challenges. Doesn't matter. We will be relentless right now. I am relentless. I am actively pursuing. Does that make sense? Yes, good, cool. Some of your comments, okay, good. So moving along, clarity happens in an instant. And I want you to know that clarity can't be denied. Like, clarity is not a should. Well, I should do this. We should end polio. Gosh, I wish we could end polio. That's not helping, if that makes sense. We need to be game on, because if you're like, I want a hot body, but I also want tacos, you're in trouble. I hope that makes sense. I saw that somebody raised their hand, and I'm going to see if I can figure out what that is all about. Might be Q&A. Nope, that's different. I'm going to scale on, but if Mary, you see anything like that, or Charlene, let me know, but I'm going to keep moving. So as we approach whatever our big goal is, and again, with our Rotary clubs, we face this all the time. I know my club does. You have to answer a big question. Are you willing? Are you willing to do what it takes to achieve that goal? And I love what Mike said about all of the things that they've had to do. I mean, working with the Taliban and working with parents and working with difficult governments. You have to be willing to do that. You can't just go, we're going to end polio. We'll throw a bunch of money at it. We'll make a bunch of vaccines. Okay, good. Yeah, yes. No. You have to be willing to do all of the things that come with it, the things you don't want to do. And from a personal experience for myself, I'm here to tell you 100% guarantee, I never once in all of the years I trained for the Ultraman, never ever once did I feel like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to drive to the swimming pool to swim for 3 hours before work. I never once felt like that. But I had to be willing to do that because to swim in the championships, you have to be ready. You have to put in the miles. There are days when I would sit in my garage or my TV room on a stationary bike for, and I'm not exaggerating, 8 or 9 hours. Nothing about that is fun, but I was willing to do that. And the corollary is you have to be unwilling to stay where you're at. You have to be unwilling for this problem to still exist. You have to be unwilling to still be at the weight you're at that you don't like. That's the power in the decision. It's not just going, oh, I wish I was whatever. You have to be willing to go through this process, because clarity doesn't mean it's easy. It means it's possible. When I look at my training that I did leading up to the World Championships, I was averaging about 600 miles a month, 1,000 kilometers a month. You look at October, I swam 53 kilometers, I cycled 705 kilometers, and I ran 177 kilometers. None of that is easy. It's something you do because the goal is strong enough. Oh, and the raised hand was simply agreement. Thanks, Daniel. Good. So, because life will throw you some challenges, right? I want to show you the hardest part of my comeback. The hardest part of my comeback race in 2018, I was back to training. My shoulder could move mostly above my head, so I could swim. It was ugly, but I could swim. And I was training, but I was still struggling with a problem where, because of the brain injury, my brain's sense of where my hands and feet were had a slight delay. Milliseconds, but enough that I tripped quite often. And I was at Arizona training camp, and I was running down the mountainside, and I caught a toe. And I dislocated a finger, gloved it to the tendons, folded it backwards. I actually sprained 6 fingers on 2 hands because where I put my hands down to stop my fall was a bunch of rocks. So you're going to have a plan, but reality might look a little different. And I would imagine, Mike, that all of the things that you've done with trying to end polio, you have seen challenge after challenge after challenge that you could spend an hour telling us about. I have no doubt. So once you have clarity and you're willing to do what it takes or unwilling to stay where you are, then you'll be unstoppable. I can guarantee you that. And like I said, I'm not telling you it's going to be easy. I'm telling you it's going to be worth it. So I hope that little piece is useful and inspirational, and I wanted to give that little value add, but now I want to shift gears. I want to talk about some stuff that's pretty current and really applies to Rotary and how we're dealing with the planet right now. So I'm wondering how many of you have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? And I've just got a question, sorry, how did you manage to need to balance family and other life stuff? That's a great question. And I balanced that by being really out of balance. I trained from 5 or 6 in the morning until 9. My wife got my son off to school. Then I would train again at noon, or I would train in the evening after my son was in bed, and I would work the whole time in between. And it's hard. It's hard. That's the reality. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm wondering how many of you have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm going to cover through what that is. If you have a comment, to just say yes. If everybody just type yes, I've heard of it. That's cool. We got a couple of yeses. Perfect. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs is really critical right now for all of us on this call to understand something that's going on in the world. Let me share you this. So if you haven't heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for those of you that haven't, it's a pyramid of the most important needs for people, for human beings as a species. The base of the pyramid is air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, and reproduction. Okay, that's our basic needs. We have to have those. We will fight for those. We will do everything we can to get those. Now, once you have them, then you're going to work on personal security, employment, resources, health, and property. You have to have the base, then you get the next level. The next level up is then you're going to work on friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection. And then you get to work on respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength, and freedom. And once you've got all of those pieces in place, then you get into self-actualization and the desire to be the most that you can be. That's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it's a fantastic way to realize how we are motivated to do things. So where is Rotary here in normal times? Just type in if you think it's blue, green, orange, red, or dark red? What are your thoughts? Where do you think Rotary fits on Maslow's hierarchy of needs? As a club, you're in your Rotary club. Where does Rotary fit in? What do you need to have in place before Rotary matters? I just want to see a couple comments. I'm going to wait. Here we go. Red, orange, yellow, and green. Yeah. So red, orange, yellow, and green. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. Middle, blue. Yes, for sure. Blue. Safety needs if you're receiving, but I'm thinking about a Rotarian you're having lunch in your town. Where does Rotary live for you? Rhea says all of them. Good. I'll give you a thought that it usually sits in the upper spot. Because if you, as a Rotarian, have air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction, personal security, employment, resources, health, and property handled, you're going to start giving of your time. You're going to reach out and help the world because your base is secure. Does that make sense? There's a couple of pieces, yes. But what do you think the pyramid looks like for most people today? With COVID and the state of the world, for most people, self-actualization, the desire to be the best, it's not relevant. And respect, there are a lot of people who lost their self-respect because they've lost their job, they lost their career. Self-esteem is shaky. Status doesn't matter. Recognition, who cares? Strength, feeling a little weak. Freedom is being questioned right now. A lot of our freedoms are disappearing. Friendships, there was a period of time we couldn't even see our friends. Intimacy, that's a little dodgy. Family, for some people that grew. When I shut down my gym, I was at home more than ever, and my family time, my little family, grew, but I couldn't go see my 87-year-old 2-pack-a-day smoking mother. There's no way. I could not go to her care home. So family shrunk in some senses. My sense of connection waned. For people, personal security went away. People lost their jobs, their resources faded, people's health. I mean, how many people have gained 20 pounds since COVID happened, right? That's happened to a lot of people. Health kind of went a little scoodgy, and you couldn't go to the gym anymore. Although I did see a lot of people going outside. That was cool. People lost their homes, property went away. Air, food, and water. I mean, I would hope water stays good in Canada, but food supply, like that got a little sketchy. For a while, you couldn't buy toilet paper. That was a bit odd. People's shelter if they lost their home. People weren't sleeping. You didn't buy new clothing because you couldn't go to the store, so you just had what you had, and it got old. And who's got time to fool around? So people's Maslow's hierarchy of needs in today's world, for a lot of people, looks a little broken. Does that make sense? I feel like that's a powerful thing to realize. And I'm going to share, if you haven't seen the film, The Social Dilemma, I highly recommend you watch it. It's called a docudrama because it's a documentary, but what they've done is they've taken the document facts and they've dramatized what that means in the real world. It's an unbelievably powerful and fascinating documentary on Netflix. And honestly, you just need to watch it. Everybody needs to see it because social media is really doing some crazy tricks. And it has to do with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So things like climate change, racism, coronavirus, and whether or not to wear a mask, where this is super relevant is that social media is creating a division of people. So if you see something on climate change that sounds really wackadoo and you click on it on social media and you're like, what are they going on about? Climate change is a hoax? What are you talking about? And you watch a video. And somebody's made a video and they make some pretty compelling points that it's a hoax, and you're like, that's interesting. Facebook, Instagram, they all notice you watch that video. So then they're going to show you another video like that, and another video like that, and another video like that, and another video like that. And if you're not careful, you're going to start to believe the world is flat or that climate change or whatever. You're going to believe whatever one side is. And the challenge we have today is that social media algorithm, which shows people more and more and more of same things, is creating a division. And if you look at every one of these elements, people are feeling insecure and they're attacked at the base of their pyramid. Take masks, for example. There's two sides to that. There's the side that says everybody has to wear a mask to keep everybody safe. You do it for the good of everyone. And the other side says, research doesn't show masks are effective, and I'm breathing in my own carbon dioxide, and whatever they believe, right? So there's two sides. The side that thinks everybody needs to wear a mask feels that if you don't wear a mask, you're risking their safety, the base of their pyramid. And that's frightening. And the people that think you shouldn't wear a mask fear that if it's mandated, they have to wear the mask, which they believe is harmful. So now you're hitting the base of their pyramid. And what we've got is people are fighting because they're scared that the consequence of your opinion versus my opinion is going to attack the base of my pyramid. That's the dangerous place the world's in right now. And what we need to do is understand that people are in a place of fear and understand that we need compassion. We need to go, I understand your fear. How can we come together so that I'm not scaring you, you're not scaring me? That's what the world needs more of right now, in my opinion. So all of this comes around with, where is Rotary in COVID times, globally, locally, finding new members and keeping members? How do we find Rotarians and how do we keep Rotarians with our mess of a need hierarchy? And I think it's huge. I think it's bigger now than ever. I think Rotary is more important now than it's ever been, because we need to remember that your worst day is somebody else's best day. It's how we see ourselves and how we see the world. Like, there are people out there right now today that can't walk. I've been on several wheelchair deliveries, 3 of them. And I mean, this wheelchair showed up as like one of the best. The guy had a wheelchair. It was a plastic lawn chair bolted to this crappy old thing that failed. And people with special needs being ignored and left in the forest. We met a fella that was tied to a tree in a forest and abandoned by his family because he couldn't deal with them because he had special needs so desperate. So, and these kids, they're thrilled because they have a chalkboard and chalk, right? Polio vaccine is changing the world. 650 million kids that aren't paralyzed, oh my gosh, right? Kids living in garbage dumps. Like, on my worst day, I'm not that kid trying to find food in a garbage dump. And I need to remember that although my world has been severely shaken and my Maslow's hierarchy of needs has been trashed, it's still better than so many. And I need to remember to come from gratitude and remember that Rotary still matters. I know I'm getting a little preachy here, but hokey diner, this matters to me, right? What we do matters. Making schools, putting people in wheelchairs. This gentleman in the chair with the white hat, that's me. I had a little bit of hair back then. I was so thrilled that I got to do Rotary wheelchair deliveries because I'm a strong guy and they needed somebody who could lift people and put them in wheelchairs. They needed somebody who could build wheelchairs and haul boxes. And I was like, I can do that. And I remember meeting this guy. So I was putting wheelchairs together, and this was in Huatulco, Mexico. And they called me over, Scott, we need you. And then they told me a little bit about this gentleman, and I met him, and I said hello. And have you ever lifted a jug of milk in the fridge and you think it's full, but it's actually a quarter full, and you just about hit the roof of the fridge? When I picked this man up, I bent down and I steeled myself to lift a full-grown human, and I don't think he weighed 80 pounds. And every joint hurt, and he was in such pain, but he was the most polite and generous and gracious human being. It was amazing to help this man into a brand new wheelchair, and I had to be so gentle with him. But I'm here to tell you, I never asked if he had his shots. I never asked if he was sick. I never asked if he was clean. I didn't put a mask on. I helped that man. And I know we need to be careful, but I still think we need to help the world. So, because where the willingness is great, the difficulties cannot be great. We can't fail if our goal is strong enough and our clarity is there. So the other thing you need is ohana, and that's a Hawaiian word for family. And I have several versions of ohana. I have the ohana, of course, ohana means family. Family means nobody gets left behind or forgotten. And to us in Rotary, that's global. Nobody gets left behind or forgotten. And this is my ohana, this is my family that got me to the World Championship finish line and got us there in 2018 after the crash. And Rotary is my family. I have an amazing Rotary family here in Sylvan Lake. And I know that all of you that I've met at conferences and everywhere, it's a great, great family, and I'm proud of that. I'm super proud to be a Rotarian. And the last little piece I have here is, I'm no expert on COVID-19, but this is the cure. And if you know 80s music, you know that's funny. All right. So that, my friends, is what I have for you today. That's the Warrior's Code. In the Warrior's Code, there's no surrender. Well, the body says stop, the spirit cries never. Powerful, powerful stuff. I'm going to click stop share, and then it's any questions if you have.
Wow, Scott, that's just amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of your challenges and successes with us tonight. It's just awesome. I'm just taking a look at the Q&A at the moment. There's nothing at the moment for Scott, but there are 2 lingering questions for Mike. So I'm just going to give us a little bit of time while people kind of come up with some ideas for Scott of further questions that they'd like to have. And maybe in the meantime, while we're waiting for those to come in, Mike, if it's okay, I'll just come over to your side of the conversation and address some of these questions that have come forward to yourself. So the first one for you, Mike, is while the number of cases are dropping quickly, how many children need to be immunized every year to keep polio eradicated, and for how many years?
Good question, Mary. We're still immunizing about 450 million children a year through the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. There's others, like for here in my country, the United States, and your country, Canada, are being done apart from the polio initiative. So that's still happening, and it's really going to need to be done about 5 or 6 years after the last wild polio case is certified. It's mostly newborns and very young children. So those are the numbers.
Okay, thank you. And one further question for Mike, then we'll transfer over to Scott. So Mike, any recommendations as to how to educate younger people about polio and the need for supporting prevention in Afghanistan and Pakistan?
Yeah, locally, every Rotary Club can get the polio story out. I spoke to actually a group in New York a few days ago, and there was one very young woman in the group, and I was a little bit worried, polio, and she was a prospective member. Then she told us that she's a physical therapist, and she has all of these polio survivor patients come in to see her. People who are struggling with post-polio syndrome and other issues. Sometimes I think we need to give people more the benefit of the doubt than we do. In Pakistan and Afghanistan in particular, we do and fund a lot of social mobilization there. Everything from community thought leaders to Facebook to WhatsApp and all those different vehicles. So it's it's like anything else. It's you continue to need to get the word out. Obviously it does become more difficult as the years have gone on, and particularly in our own countries where people don't see polio direct on. So fortunately Rotarians have been persistent, they've been passionate, but it's to me the imperative to get it done as the memories of having active polio new cases gets more and more distant. So I'm hopeful that that Army General in Pakistan's right. We will get this done, and with his leadership and others, we'll get it done.
Thank you. And over to you now, Scott. What's the best way for us to deliver your message to all of our fellow Rotarians?
It's a good question. I love to speak to people, and I like to do keynote speeches or come to a Rotary meeting, whether it's Zoom or whether it's in person. I'm happy to do that. Obviously, that's now my career, so I'm hoping to find paid gigs too. That would be great because the bills keep coming. But I'm happy to share the message with Rotary clubs. Simply just get a hold of me and invite me, and I want to help Rotary continue to be relevant and grow. And so I'm happy to come to your club. So just reach out to me. You can go to www.warriorcodefilm.com and you can contact me through there or through Rotary. There's a million different ways to get in touch with there. If you Facebook, just search me out. I'm Scott McDermott, Sylvan Lake. I'm usually pretty easy to find, but yeah, I'm happy to help.
Awesome. And I'd like to invite you to join our Speakers Bureau on the People of Action website for the district. I think that would be an amazing thing to have you on our People of Action site, and then clubs can contact you directly. So we can talk more about that later when we're offline. Just another comment here from past District Governor Dan Doherty. In Calgary and many places in Canada, there are significant numbers of South Asian immigrants with associations and strong ties to their respective homelands. Perhaps if Rotary connects locally with them, it can help get the message out about polio. So another way to communicate and collaborate with others to get the message across to others. So a great idea for sure.
I think too, Mary, it's a big piece that ties into what I did in my presentation. Like the reason people have fear around vaccines is that bottom of the pyramid. They're afraid that it threatens their health, and we're trying to show them that it actually helps their health. But like, not all vaccines are created equal. Some vaccines do have a small but real consequence. There are people that have been harmed by vaccines. So now that Facebook has made that known, they kind of, like I said, when you watch The Social Dilemma, you realize that if you watch a video that shows science about somebody that got hurt by a vaccine, it's going to show you more of that. And so things that shouldn't grow are.
I don't see any more questions coming in, so I think the two of you have done an amazing job of answering all of the questions here this evening. So that's just a
comment. Sorry, Mary, I see a comment on the
just
comment.
to say an important, yes, Dan, that's an important strategy, and don't think there's any other Q&A coming in at the moment. So
I think Ria said something in the conversation piece. I'm not sure.
Let me take a look here.
Yeah, she's talking about Calgary making a pathway network.
Oh, yeah, the Mattamy Greenway pathway for people to cycle on, and that's an amazing opportunity for people to get out and get some fresh air and exercise. So that's a great idea in Calgary.
Well, the Rotary cycling thing has been a lot of fun, and I'm really proud of our club. We've surpassed 5360 kilometers, which is great. And
fantastic!
Yeah, I don't know how many of you know Jack Van Delden. He's certainly not young, and he's had his share of trips and falls recently and broken bones and stuff. And he's actually cycled more than I have. He's outdone me by about 200 kilometers. He's on a stationary bike every day. And
that's incredible.
Yeah, it's really neat. It's good to see people are enthusiastic.
Yeah, fabulous. All right. Well, I think before I hand it over to Marlene, I'd just like to say on behalf of our district, 5360, I'd like to extend our very sincere appreciation to both of you this evening for your presentations. Polio is a very real and devastating disease, and as Rotarians, we are not yet done. And it's through your leadership that we are inspired to continue the fight to eradicate this terrible disease from our global home. With this added inspiration, we will see the race through and cross the finish line, with Rotary International leading the charge. Marlene, I'd like to hand it over to you to talk to us about what comes next.
Awesome. Thanks, Mary. Just before we wrap up, I must take a moment to recognize and thank a very special Rotarian. He's extremely humble and gracious, and no doubt is squirming right about now, but here goes. Vic Maris is a member of the Sylvan Lake Rotary Club. This initiative of Come Spin With Us is his dream. He contacted me in the summer and suggested a cycle challenge that would raise funds for polio. Vic is an avid cyclist, and at Zone last week it was announced that Thelma and Vic are Arch Clump Society members. Congratulations. We are grateful for your dedication, your leadership, and commitment to eradicating polio. So just a quick update on the challenge. The challenge currently has 14 clubs in the district participating, and the goal is to achieve 5,360 kilometers. So Sylvan Lake, you overachievers, and also to raise $1 per kilometer. The excitement and the momentum has been building. The weather has been beautiful, and we welcome the Rotary Club of Cochrane. They're the latest to join the party. So, with less than a month to World Polio Day, we are inspired. Mike and Scott, thank you. We have clarity and we are willing. So the next steps, tune in October 6th for the panel with Mike and the polio ambassadors. Get a hold of Scott, help him spread the word and inspire our members. And he does have a movie, and it really talks about his journey. So we're working on a Zoom for that. So we'll keep you posted on that. So once again, thanks to DG Mary, Mike, Scott, Charlene, all of you who are involved in the challenge, and all of you who took time out of your busy schedule to join us this evening. Stay safe, take care, and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.